Hello, hello, hello. We are live. It's the Green Umbrella Live Lunch, Thursday, 12 o'clock. What else would we be doing right now? So, yeah, obviously, there's only two people on the screen. It's just me and Mark. Mark is known for not talking a lot on these. So I'm going to enjoy today. I'm like, pressure is on, Mr. Mundin. This is your show. I'm really gonna I'm gonna try and stay as quiet as possible and just keep prompting you and make you do all the work today.
I'm just going to stay muted. Got a bad internet connection at the other end of the office. It might not work very well.
That is a problem. We are in the office together, so we are going to have to I was thinking. I just went and had a quick wee before we started, and I was thinking whilst I was peeing, I was like, I'm really going to have to listen today, like really listen, so that we make sure we mute and unmute at the right time and all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, there'll be loads of like gaps in everything.
I've just been practicing clicking mute and unmute. That's it, and that's the amount of concentration it actually takes.
Awesome. Okay, so obviously normally Jane would be here with all of the sort of the trends and like what's new in social and that kind of stuff, and I've got a few things that to talk about if we have time. But as people that have listened into this regularly know, the reason that we do this is in lockdown, stuff would pop up and we would maybe not be able to talk about those things in the way we would do in the office together. And it was all about reflecting some of those conversations. And there's something that I've sent you this week that is it. So a bit of backstory. Mark's very visual, and let's just put on LinkedIn, Christina's going to keep quiet. She's obviously shocked at that thought. So we've done it before. There's been PDFs and things like that, and I always click on the titles, and I'm in the text and that kind of stuff. And Mark is the visual person, so you'll click on images and that kind of stuff. And it's interesting how different people interact with content in different ways. But one of the articles that popped up this week that I saw and then sent to you, Mark, was about sort of social media design trends for this year. So not so much about like the strategies to use and that kind of stuff, but actually stuff around the visuals. And basically, I saw this article, and it was a very visual article, and it was saying use this and use that and use it, and I just didn't get it. So I sent it to Mark and said, right, explain this to me. Like, what should I be taking away from this? So, and he hasn't given me the answer yet. I kept stopping him because I'm like, right, Mark, give me the answer now. And I'm just going to actually put the link to the article in the comments. Normally Jane does this stuff. She's much better at it than me. But yeah, so the link to the article is in there now. But yeah, Mark, so I just didn't get it. Like, what is this actually telling us in terms of what the trends are from a design perspective?
Well, I suppose there's a few things about sort of colours and styles that sort of stood out, but it was also a little bit contradictory as well, because there's four, if people look at the article, there's four sort of different sort of styles that are mentioned in the article, one of which is very organic, soft colours, natural, muted sort of thing. And then the other three are very vivid, sort of bright colours, sort of when it sort of going back to what I would call perhaps not sort of 40s, 50s, they call it jet set. To me, it's like Mad Men style, almost like sort of early Mad Men. If anyone's watched Mad Men, there's some of the sort of posters and things that I associate with that sort of era. So those kind of feels. And then some sort of 90s, sort of almost pop art, looks a bit acid house there, sort of old school stuff there, and then a bit more futuristic. So yeah, it's a difficult one because I don't know how you'd sort of pull those into your own brands if your brand didn't represent one of those sort of styles. So obviously our brand is quite sort of bright and vivid, so it would work to a certain degree, and we could make some of those work. But I think if we started putting things out in a sort of soft muted palette with sort of very sort of nature sort of feel, I think people would be thinking, what have I done wrong? So it's a difficult one. So you've got,
Go on, what are you going to say?
over to you.
I think, yeah, if we put something out that was real kind of like pastels and muted and all that sort of stuff, people would think something new was coming. Like, you know, is this a hint of a change or something like that, which is, yeah. And this is the problem with brand, isn't it? Because you're constantly looking like, how can I stand out online? What's going to make my posts really pop in the feed, stop the scroll, all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, you need to stay true to your brand as well. And that is, you know, I talk about staying true to the brand in terms of, like, you know, your values and your storytelling and that sort of stuff. And I think sometimes when people are doing that, they end up moving away from I was going to say the brand basics, but it's more the brand fundamentals, like the fonts and the colors and all of that kind of stuff. So where do we go with this?
I mean, you can sort of work it into different things, and we have done things over the years with our sort of, you know, flyers and things where we've perhaps took a bit of a theme, and it still does feel like it's us, but it's perhaps not the core sort of colours and things like that. We have done that, and you can do it, but I think, yeah, if you've got a, you know, obviously I'm just looking at these sort of on the screen at the minute. But say, for example, the one that they're calling Vivid Dreams, which is the one they're saying is the sort of 90s sort of feel, very bright. You know, if you were a high-class furniture company or something, again, it's looking at the other way around. So we're very bright, we wouldn't go very muted, but you wouldn't use that if your, you know, core brand was very, you know, styled and subtle, basically. So again, it's probably picking the bits out of those trends, but making sure that you're not going away from, like you say, from your own core brand, really. So you can make it work a little bit, but don't go too far away, you know, just because it's on trend, basically. That would be my sort of take point.
So something we've talked about recently, and especially after being at Rec Expo last week, which seems like months ago, not like literally a week ago. Like, obviously we talk about our brand all the time, and, you know, how do we keep the brand fresh and develop it? And when we were talking about it again this morning, like looking around at some of the stuff in the office that is outdated, basically, because the brand's evolved and that sort of stuff. So let's say you're looking at this kind of advice, like, you know, what are the trends? Because those trends it's very rare you see a design trend that's there for 1 year. It's like, if it's a trend that's there in this year, it's probably going to be there for the next couple. And these trends just sort of develop and they come around again and all that sort of stuff. But like, when we're thinking about developing the brand, like, how do you, because you're always like, I might say something once every 6 months. And it's like, every time I do, you come back at me with like all these ideas, because it's like you're constantly thinking about what we could do, how we should do it, why we should be tweaking certain things. So basically repeat the conversation we had this morning, Mark.
God, that was a long time ago. I think, like you said, it just, there's always little bits where, you know, we've changed as a company over the years. So, you know, obviously been going like 12 years now. So the brand at the start was 100% different to what it was now visually. And then we rebranded in 2014, I think it was, wasn't it? To this new logo and things like that. But obviously, again, it's moved on even from that point. So, you know, just probably, I suppose, I don't know, is maturing it. The brand matures a bit maybe over time, tweaks, you know, here and there. And like, obviously, like we were talking about this morning, I'm looking at the banner behind you, which is our current style. It is still very us. It's bright. It's quite in your face. Obviously, when we took that to Rec Expo, it stood out nicely. And again, with the complementary things that we had, so whether that be our clothing and obviously leaflets and things that were, you know, to complement that, it all worked really well. but then there is, like, obviously looking at social media trends, I was looking at some of our posting templates and things that we use and how we present certain bits on there. And again, I think one thing I just want to tweak is like some of the text style and things like that. So it's just little subtle things where, you know, you can tweak over time. It just makes a little bit of a difference, but it's still your brand, but it just updates things to be a bit more current, I suppose.
How do you like? I mean, I don't know why, but recently, like the word values just keeps coming up. Probably over the last 6 months, I've talked more about like how you build your values into your content and that sort of stuff. But when you are looking at, you know, we know what it's like, sort of post Christmas, loads of new businesses appear. People are looking at advice in terms of building their brands and like literally from not knowing where to start. So how do you ensure that you're building that stuff into your brand as well from a design perspective?
I suppose obviously colours have an impact, things like fonts. I was following, I can't remember what it was the other day. It was a trade, some kind of trade. It was like, I think it was a plumber. And the van was all relatively nicely done, but then it wasn't Comic Sans, but it was another sort of chalkboard type font that had been used for the contact info. And it just like, well, it just didn't work. And there was just no thought in that at all. So it's thinking about how you represent yourself through those kind of things. So again, colours are important. I'm just trying to think of a good example. So we had a client a little while ago who is a lawyer, but she's not a stuffy lawyer at all. So she wanted a very personal brand that represented something personal to her, but also stood out within the space that she was in. So for a lawyer, normally you'd think pink and flowers, etc., would not work. But because it's personal to her and it stands out, it does actually work. So it's, you know, representing those kind of things. So again, like with our brand, there's obviously reasons why certain things have always been done from the very start when Julia started the business through to now. So even to the background on the banner, which we use, and obviously it's on the background of the StreamYard, is actually our building. So it's just a little personal touch to something around us, and that's the reason it's there, and it looks quite nice.
I love it. I love it because it's like it feels really natural, but it's like having that green to orange fade as well. It's like it still has the impact and all of that sort of stuff. Of, you know, I think there's I think if you looked at the brand 10 years ago, it was really fun, really playful. And yeah, as a business, we've grown up, social media has matured. The type of content we'd have put out 10 years ago versus the type of content you put out today, there's big shifts in that in terms of what works and what doesn't and that sort of stuff as well. So I think the kind of, as social media as a whole has elevated, so has our brand. And it, like I said, it's maturing is one word. I think there's a bit of it's a bit more elegance around it as well now. Whereas, like I said, when we first started, it was, it was all about early adoption. Everyone was learning, weren't they? So I think it fitted really nicely. But it's stuff like the giraffe. Like the giraffe featured, like the giraffe was on everything in like back then, and now. We take George is deflated in over there somewhere, but George doesn't feature like it used to in terms of like all of our branding stuff, but it's still there. It's still like we've still got that. I used a really good phrase this morning that I can't think of now, but it's like we've not just lost what we started with. There's still hints of it there.
It's still that connection, and it's still a good standout point, especially with the inflatable George. Obviously, that gets a lot of attention when we're at events and things like that, and obviously sometimes is sitting behind you. So there's still that story behind it as well to attach to the brand. If someone says why this, why that, there's a reason for doing things. Whereas sometimes you don't have to have that, but if I think everything we've done has always come from a little bit of a personal place from someone in the business. So there's that connection to it as well.
I think that's the one of the things we were talking about was, so we do a lot of work within the recruitment world. People that are perhaps, they don't know, believe it or not, there's 1 or 2 people in the recruitment world that don't know us. But an umbrella company is a particular type of service within that world. And so people assume we're an umbrella company, which we're not. We're a marketing agency. So there's always been this thing going on in the background. Oh, should we change the name? It was, the company was called Green Umbrella before we got into this niche of recruitment. So it's kind of like, well, we're established with this name. Like 12 years of business, of course we're established. People know us as Green Umbrella, but there's always this thing of like, should we change the name? And right now it's like, if someone asks us where the name comes from, well, the name comes from Julia. It's Julia's story of selling her car to finance her first business. It's Julia's, it's the story of you doing the logo with Julia and putting her initials together for the umbrella. It's not our story. So there's always this kind of thing of like, actually, where's the risk in terms of a rebrand when you've got something that's really established? To make that change, you don't know which way it's going to go. So, I mean, it's something we've talked about at length, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when the business started, there wasn't that plan that it would ever grow, I don't think, to where it is now. And certainly, even though Julia was a recruiter, I don't think she ever foresaw the real niche. But again, like you say, at the time, social media was totally new to businesses, and the logo, the name, everything all made sense within the little local sort of area where we were working at that time. It stood out and it had some meaning, which we then obviously developed visually. Like we were saying earlier, the umbrella is still there subtly in the logo with the sort of RSS sort of Wi-Fi sort of symbol, so it's still there, but it's not as obviously prominent. Obviously, yes, the name's still there, and yeah, maybe at some point that has to change, but yes, it'd be a big job, as we were discussing this morning.
Like, the thought of it makes me really nervous. Angela's watching over on LinkedIn, and so Angela's she runs a training and education business within the recruitment space, and she knows us really well. And she's like, I'd never have thought of you as an umbrella company, which is really, like I say, Angela knows us. She knows what we do, so she doesn't have that thought. But Angela was also exhibiting at the same event at Recruitment Agency Expo. And Angela, honestly, the number of people that came up to the stand and was like, oh, umbrella, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, you don't need us. But there's that person over there that I know. Let me introduce you to someone that is actually an umbrella. See, now I've said someone that is an umbrella, like anyone in the recruitment world will go, yeah, I know what that means. Whereas people outside of recruitment watching this are like, Christina's calling people umbrellas now. Slight improvement on the sorts of names I use for people, but there you go. So why do I say these things? The problem is I say this stuff and Kim is literally sat opposite me and she reacts like she's like literally going like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? And then I hear it. So yeah. So like I said, name changes, things like that, shifts in brands, it is really, really difficult. And, especially when it's, I mean, you've got massive ownership over this brand because you were there right from the beginning. But it's I don't know. I feel really connected to the brand, but when I need to tell the story, I'm kind of like, oh, this isn't my story. It always feels like a little bit of a disconnect.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, but then it's obviously developed again over the last few years. So, it's always. I think that's the thing. Like we were saying earlier, I think a brand will always evolve. It will always change. The key bits, might always be there. So, irrelevant of whether we do ever change the name or whatever, if we're Green Umbrella, it's going to be green because, that colour, you can't be called Green Umbrella and not be green. That would be just weird. So there's always going to be connections from that. So whether it be the colours, yes, you might, have a refresh of the logo in 5 years' time or something or whatever. But again, within the whole brand, there will be things that are fed in from everyone else, from this point on. So, we've got the I can't think what your nickname for the woman on the back is, but the check-shirted lady.
Doris.
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 Doris. Doris might be with us for a little while, or she might be replaced. There might be something else. But again, that's just an evolution of it.
Do you know, it's really funny talking about old Doris right now. The reason we use her and that set of images was purely because she's wearing a check shirt, and Mark is like it's just checks all the way. Check shirt, check shirt, check shirt. We used to have, for a while we had check shirt Fridays, didn't we?
Yeah, that wasn't my idea, by the way, either.
It was
people just getting on my bandwagon.
It was a sign of solidarity when you were the only male in the business.
That's true, yeah.
That was us being inclusive.
Yeah, that's all right. I've got Dean to talk to now. It's all right.
Do you know, I nearly started talking about the inclusivity thing, and then I realised I ranted about that last week, didn't I? Probably leave that one alone for a couple of weeks. But we should get Jo to come and join us to talk on that topic because, she's really good. Okie dokie. So the other thing I was going to say, so established businesses. So let's say you've had a website done. How long would you suggest that someone, it would be before someone then refreshes their website again? Or has a new website?
That's a difficult one. Because again, I suppose it depends on what, if things have changed within the business. So obviously, there's certain things you can refresh quite easily. So as long as your brand hasn't changed, I mean, I don't know, really. 5 years? I don't know. What's your opinion on that one?
Right. So the reason I'm asking this is because this morning you said, and there's things I want to change on the website. And I'm like, we've only just bloody done the website. Well, and you were like, well, it's, that's 3 years ago now. I'm like, bloody leave it alone.
I know. I mean, it is difficult because you wouldn't want to redo everything, but there's just things that you think, I could do that differently. Or, that would be better if I laid out in this way, or, that type of thing. And then obviously changes, obviously it's not so much now, but obviously there were a lot of changes within the last 10 years to do with obviously mobile layouts and things. So they were very good reasons to update your website if you'd got, and we still see some pretty horrible old websites that, are not responsive and things like that. So
we see some horrible new websites that are not responsive.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But obviously if you've got a fundamental problem with, something like mobile or SSL certificates, all those kind of techie things as well as visual things, then obviously those kind of things need sorting out. Obviously looking at your content, obviously refreshing content, we're going down a different road, but obviously that's all good. So yeah, I mean, Paul's saying he's had about 4 or 5 in the last 10 years. That's probably quite a lot, I'd say. What have we had? Probably 3 to 4.
Yeah, there's sort of been 3 major. So the original site, and then 2 major changes.
Yeah.
That I would consider as new websites.
Yeah. I mean, there's some sites. I'm just thinking of our clients. There's some sites that we've done that are perhaps 4 years plus old that are still okay. But they are getting to the end of life, and there's a couple that are, a bit older, and they definitely need. Clients need a little bit of a push to actually update those.
I'm like, if we call them out, it's like lead generation.
No.
What's interesting though, so in Paul's situation, I do think Paul's business like he's got a booking system online. There's like a back end that members can log into and that sort of stuff. So I guess it does actually make more sense that he has changed his more often as he's built more value into his proposition, because he's needed something to sort of, be the vehicle for that.
Yeah, and as Paul just said, obviously he did go through a proper rebrand as well.
Yeah.
So obviously when you do that, you've got to do that. So yeah, probably I'd say 3 to 4 years. So we've probably got another year or so.
I feel like, what's that little kid on that meme?
So,
I'm like, we got so much other stuff. I don't want a new website this year.
I don't think we need a new one. We just need a few tweaks.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I think that's everything on the design stuff that I wanted to pick your brain about. But then I did find something that sort of ties in with the world of recruitment that is, I just thought it was quirky. It's a bit of an advertising, marketing kind of thing. So IKEA are looking for, I think it's like I can't remember how many people now. Okay, I've just pulled the article up. So they're recruiting for more than 150 technology and innovation vacancies this year. Okay, now I don't know if that's UK, US, what, Sweden. I've no idea. Okay, but what caught my attention is that the way that the advert they've put together, like when we're talking to recruiters from a marketing perspective, and we're talking to people in the world of talent, sort of talent acquisition, that sort of stuff, we talk about the difference between a job ad and a job description. And I think this is really, like anyone not in recruitment, it's really important that you understand that. A job description is, this is what the job is. Your job ad is essentially you marketing the vacancy. And what IKEA have done is basically, they want all these innovators to come into their business, but they've also made a pledge that like 50% of the foods they sell will be plant-based by whatever year it is. Okay, I don't do pictures, I don't do numbers either. So let's say 2020, blah, blah, blah. Okay, they want to be 50% plant-based by then. So the advert they've put out for recruitment is basically people just chilling out, enjoying family time, and it kind of cuts in between that and a 3D printer printing a plant-based meatball. I think that's really clever.
Are you saying we need to be printing plant-based meatballs in the office?
Maybe, but like I said, think about communicating values, right? So it's like they want people to have comfortable homes. So there's that part of it. There's that element of family that's in there. There is they want to be innovative, so they've brought that in as well. And it's just like, like I said, I just thought it's really clever the way it literally brings everything together. And part of this article, apparently, I couldn't dig into this bit, so it basically says it's as part of the interview process. They're going to serve these 3D printed meatballs to the applicants, to the candidates, which I think that might be pushing it, But yeah, like how cool is that? We're looking for people to come and, tech people, innovative people to come and join our business. These are our values. And what a fantastic way to put it together as a job ad.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound like it's the whole sort of package, like you say. It's sort of, like you say, pushing those values out there through the brand.
Absolutely. Like I say, I thought it was really clever. I'm going to put a link in for that one. There you go. Like I say, sometimes it's just me that thinks that stuff is like clever, but I think Paul Green's put it in the comments on Facebook as well, saying that he's my PA, which is fine because actually the Facebook link I think has failed. The reason I started to laugh then is as I said that, Kim literally like meerkatted above my desk. What? Paul, you've got competition. So yeah, like I said, it's weird. The stuff I find interesting and clever and the rest of it, and like I said, it's like Mark's like, oh, is that it? Is that all?
That's why we need everyone together, you see. So you pick on those bits, I'll pick up on some visual stuff, bring it all together, sorted.
Absolutely. Cool. Okay, since it's just the two of us, I'm going to bring things to a close. Like, so there's other social media news stuff and that kind of thing, but I'm just a little bit like it's stuff like Android is. I'm going to mute you, Mark. Sorry. Android is planning to like strip out the tracking like iOS did, but they're kind of saying we're going to do a better job of it than Apple did. So there's that going on. There's loads of articles out at the minute that are kind of like, this is how you get more followers on Instagram. This is how you get more engagement on Instagram. There's tons of that stuff going on. There was a last week. It was last week and over the weekend. Like Facebook have had a really tough time, right? Because they've had, they've sort of Facebook's not grown, which has affected Meta's shares. But then there's this whole thing on data and, will Meta pull out of Europe because of this data issue? That's, they can't send the data from Europe to the US and be GDPR compliant potentially. And so the headlines like Tuesday morning last week, were like, Facebook's going to pull out, Facebook and Instagram are leaving Europe. When it's like, they've just had this really crap time with not being able to grow. Looking at each other across the office now because I think my signal dropped for a second. But yeah, basically, like in Europe, that's the only place that Facebook and Instagram did see some growth. So why would they pull out? And it's like one of those, oh well, if you don't make it work for us, then it's like being in the playground, isn't it? If you're not, if you don't want to play my game, then I won't play. It's just, yeah. I just think it's a load of noise about nothing. Basically, it'll all get fixed because it always does. And it's not just, there's like 60, 70 companies internationally, corporates, that are going to have this same problem. So it will get resolved. So yes, there have been like new stuff, but it's the kind of thing that me and Jane get really excited about, and you sort of go, let me know the other side.
Get Jane back next week to talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Okay, so how's it been in the hot seat?
Terrible.
You loved it. I think we should make it a regular thing. We'll just get Mark and one person to talk to you about design and print and web and all that kind of stuff, branding.
That sounds like an awful idea.
Well, I think you've been very informative today.
Well, try my best occasionally.
I just realised how condescending that sounded, but
you've done very well.
Do you know, I wish I had a gold star in my drawer right now for you. I really do. Nicola's just put on Facebook, never know Mark to be so chatty. And Nicola, just so you know, you left your water bottle in the office the other day if you've been trying to track it down.
And just so you know, Nicola, I did actually say to Christina yesterday, have you let Nicola know that she's left her water bottle? No. Wait till live lunch.
Brilliant. Cool. Okay, so let's wrap it up. Let's call it a day, because now we're just having like private conversations with people, which is like a big no-no. But thank you, people, for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. Hope it's been useful. If you've been thinking about branding, rebranding, anything like that, like, honestly, Mark might not say a lot, but when you get him talking about this stuff, some great stuff. So yeah, just shoot us any questions in the comments, or just, connect with him on LinkedIn and drop him a message there. And Mark, thank you, because I know you were really dreading this, but it has been a really good session. So thank you. We'll see you.
Got one job. Well, I've got one job, so make sure you wave so I can do the screen grab, else Jane will tell me off.
I'm waving.
That's it. We're all right. Jane can't tell us off now.
Brilliant. She'll be so proud of us. We scheduled it in plenty of time. We weren't late. We took the screenshot. It's like, we could just go home now.
That's it. We're done. Mic drop. Done.
Amazing. Fab. Goodbye, everyone. We'll see you next Thursday, 12 noon on Facebook, my LinkedIn and YouTube as well for the next live lunch. Thank you for tuning in. Bye for now.